You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Kasi ang nangyayari, let's say, ang cute nila, kawawa naman sila, wag natin silang i-destroy, no? But then, ang consequence kasi, if they overrun us, malaki, no? And we have to make sure that if we destroy them also, we abide by the animal welfare law.
Squirrels look adorable because of their bushy tails and cartoonish eyes. Some films or shows even make them cuter by packing their cheeks with nuts. But in reality, they could be invasive and become a threat to the country's biodiversity. Some species of these rodents are not native to the country, and they are believed to have arrived through illegal pet trade. In particular, the Finlayson squirrel, which is not endemic to the Philippines, is becoming a nuisance in Metro Manila and other areas in Luzon. These squirrels can be a threat to communities, farms, and other animals in the country. In this episode, wildlife experts and animal welfare advocates share precautionary measures on dealing with Finlayson squirrels and why the only way is to eliminate them. This is Jin Garcia, and you are listening to Teka Teka, powered by Puma Podcast.
We have squirrels that are found, like Philippine squirrels to in Mindanao, in the Mindanao faunal region, and in Palawan, which means that if they are found anywhere else in the Philippines, they are not natives. They're probably introduced, and they don't belong there.
That's Emilia Lastica-Ternura, an associate professor at the College of Veterinary Medicine of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños.
Yung distribution kasi ng animals sa Philippines, ng wildlife sa Philippines, dictated by how the country also evolved geographically. So our islands came from different sources. And so we're composed of many different geographical areas. No? So we call them in biology, we call them biogeographic regions. No? And Palawan is a distinct biogeographic region, as well as Mindanao, the Greater Mindanao Faunal Region, is a distinct biogeographical region, which is different from Luzon. The Greater Luzon biogeographical region is also distinct. So if you notice the distribution of animals, there are animals that can only be found in Luzon, not found in Mindanao or Palawan. There are animals that are only found in Palawan but not in Luzon. So similar to the squirrels, ganun din yung reason kung bakit sa Luzon walang squirrels. Kasi yung distribution ng animals ay magkaiba, no? Unfortunately, ngayon may squirrels na dahil ang tinatawag namin doon, may term yun eh, biological pollution, no? Meaning, sino ba yung nagpo-pollute? Hayop ba? Hindi, 'di ba? Tao ang pollutant. So, kasi dinala sila ng tao. In the same way that pathogens can be pollutants because people brought them there, no? And this has an impact on the balance of nature, let's say in areas where these animals do not naturally occur.
The Philippines has over 9 native squirrel species that live in some islands of Palawan and Mindanao. They are the Philippine pygmy squirrel, northern Palawan tree squirrel, southern Palawan tree squirrel, Palawan flying squirrel, Palawan montane squirrel, Philippine tree squirrel or Mindanao tree squirrel, Mindanao flying squirrel, Culion tree squirrel, and the Busuanga tree squirrel. Unfortunately, the Finlayson squirrel has been spotted in several areas in Luzon, where they should not be staying. They are spotted in gated villages in Taguig and Makati and other areas in Nueva Ecija and Batangas. They have been recorded in Metro Manila as early as the year 2000. But they are naturally found in Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Thailand. These rodents inhabit dense forests, coconut plantations, and sparse woods. Their colors range from all white to all red to all black. However, as fascinating as they may look, these squirrels can cause harm to the ecosystem. And as early as 2014, the country's Department of Environment and Natural Resources Biodiversity Management Bureau, or the NRBMB, has been trying to stop these invasive animals from multiplying.
No? So they started to adapt to the location, to the area. They started to learn how to live here. And then they adapted and grew in numbers, no? And because of that, possibly the first, I would say, victims, no, of the population boom of this species would be naturally occurring animals. So first sila muna. Kasi squirrels would probably they would nest in holes in naturally in nest holes in trees, no. A lot of our animals in the Philippines also nest in nest holes in trees, which means any nest hole in, let's say, Manila or any wooded area in the Philippines would be prime real estate for animals. And so, if an invasive species or if an introduced species arrives and competes with our native species for these prime real estate, merong tendency that they take that um real estate from our native species. So may impact 'yon sa population ng native species natin. So that's one, no? May ecological impact ang invasive and introduced species. Number two, if because of their adaptation, the numbers increase, they become pests, no? Like ratus-ratus, the rats, no, yung mga yung Norway rats and black rats na nakita natin sa kalsada or sa, like who are also introduced, no? They're also introduced species and they're also invasive. They also carry diseases. And yung squirrels, they might have them too. We still don't know. We need to figure out what diseases they carry, but because they're rodents, they could carry also leptospirosis, toxoplasmosis. All these diseases can affect not just other rodents, but also, or our pets as well, but also us, no? Because they are zoonotic diseases. That's what we call animal diseases that can affect humans. So that's another impact. Another impact is yung disruption ng daily life ng tao. Because if they increase in numbers, because they're rodents, their behavior, they need to like gnaw on stuff. So ano ba yung, saan ba sila tumatawid? Sa power lines, right? Or trees. Pag walang trees, ang ating surrogate trees would be power lines. And that's what they'll use. And so if they need to gnaw on something, they could gnaw on power lines. And there have been reports regarding this in not just in the Philippines, but in other countries where squirrels gnawing on power lines caused fires, leading to loss of possession, no? In other areas, especially if they, for instance, if they invade farms, they've discovered that mangoes are really good. So let's say they invade an orchard with mangoes, there there's a possibility that they will probably just eat mangoes. If they're in an orchard, they can decimate the mangoes in the orchard. So meron ding economic implications yung um pagdami nila.
The Philippines has the National Invasive Species Strategy and Action Plan 2020 to 2030. It talks about controlling invasive species in the country, including the Finlayson squirrels. The plan calls for exploring and evaluating available control options and technologies to find effective management strategies. It also states that eradicating invasive species should be ecologically feasible, ethically humane, and have financial support.
I'm not an expert on squirrels, but I can cite an example. Sa US, I think in LA, may isang beses na masyado namang madami yung mga pigeon, yung mga kalapate. Sobrang dami yung kalapate na they think of them as parang invasive na can cause harm, ganyan. But yung LA, yung county, they did not kill yung catch and kill yung mga pigeon. Ang ginawa nila, they worked with veterinarians, and then ang naging solution nila is nagpakalat sila ng bird food with birth control.
That was Jana Sevilla, campaigner at the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, Asia.
So that prevented the pigeons from multiplying. Parang gano'n. Instead of yun nga yung birth control, yun talaga yun talaga yung solusyon, 'di ba? Even sa mga animal homelessness, birth control. Kaya nagkaroon ng kapon at ligation. So sana mag-come up din yung DNR na something na humane on how on dealing with this.
However, using birth control to stop the finlayson squirrels from proliferating could be expensive, so the only way is through humane euthanasia, said Emilia.
I suppose that's so expensive. With a country that hasn't answered properly the social problems that we have, I don't think that could be a practical solution. Currently, currently, habang konti pa lang sila, may time pa tayo. Pero we're running against time here. Like the implications of having the cities overrun by squirrel are weightier than, moral dilemma para sa akin, no? Um, Very controversial, I know, but it we have to look at the whole picture as well. Um, Euthanasia is actually one of the most humane things that we could do. Um, no, like it's one of the most humane choices then if you think about it. Um, Tas yung weighing in mo rin 'no, I mean that's another rodent species to deal with, spreading these zoonotic diseases.
Emilia also encouraged proper education dissemination on the squirrels to ensure the public knows the possible diseases, risks, and control strategies.
First, policy, we need to have proper policy, and then klaro dapat yung gagawin ng mga, tao, ng population. 'Pag nakakita ng Finlayson squirrel sa Ayala, Alabang, meron na din doon, eh. 'Pag nakakita ng ganyan, sino yung tatawagin? Wala kasing hotline, eh, 'di ba? Just nakalagay lang, "Call DENR." Pero a lot of us don't know that number to call, 'di ba? So important din yung education, and it's not just DNR's, job, we also need to make sure that the population knows this, because it's a matter of health, you know, like in terms of, let's say sa orchard sila dumami, then it's a matter of economics kasi may financial um ano yun, repercussions, 'di ba? So kailangan tingnan natin yung mga ganong weights, no, bago natin isantabi na huwag natin silang i-destroy kasi cute sila or whatever.
Some people may be tempted to take care of squirrels as pets. However, Philippine Animal and Welfare Society Executive Director Ana Cabrera warns against this practice. Under the Wildlife Resource Conservation and Protection Act of 2001, only accredited individuals, businesses, and researchers are allowed to collect threatened wildlife and only for scientific reasons, breedings, or propagation purposes.
And so this is the reason why we don't advocate really for wildlife to be kept as pets. Wildlife should be kept wild. And then we shouldn't be interfering because the moment we start interfering, that's when all the problem occurs. Like in the same manner. So these are human animal conflicts that we get. Mga macaques of Banton Island, Romblon, they're also saying that the monkeys were eating their crops, and so they were killing the monkeys not just to keep the monkeys from killing their crops, but if they really think back on it, what prompted these monkeys to go down? Because they destroyed the forest where the monkeys were getting their food. And so since wala na yung forest, the monkeys started going downwards to the town and then taking yung mga crops. So it's really mutual thing. I mean, there is reciprocity. If you mess with wildlife and their habitat, then it wreaks havoc on our especially in mga urban areas.
Hindi pa natin alam yung health implication, pero malaki yung potential because they are rodents. Rodents are next to bats. They're one of the widest spread na disease spreaders, no? In terms of like, let's say, sa wildlife.
And that's it for today's episode of Teka Teka. If you're curious about animal rights in the Philippines, check out our related episodes on animal cruelty cases and the unregulated breeding of dogs in the country. We'll leave the links in our show notes. Again, I'm Jin Garcia, and if you find these conversations interesting, please share them with a friend or two. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. This episode was edited by Anthony Tobias and produced by Consuelo Marquez. Jaemark Tordecilla is our editor at large. Thank you for listening.